Hi, we're back.
Hello, welcome to the channel. Today is October 9th, and our topic today is set the standards and use them.
Yeah, something about standards. I have like a rule that I try to live by is like standardize before you optimize, right? I don't know whose quote that was. I think that's actually Peter Attia or James Clear, one of those two guys. But it's like, optimize, standardize before you optimize, because otherwise we don't know what to optimize. We're optimizing, but then we end up with wrong things at the end because we didn't have some sort of a standard of how to do it, right? So that makes total sense. So when I hear standardize, I'm like, yup, gotta do it. It's a pain in the ass, it's boring to standardize things, but it is super important.
I think standardization is like it gives you the jumping off point, like the baseline for what to optimize. Because if you don't have standards, then you're optimizing willy-nilly in this domain and that domain. Like it doesn't have any rhyme or reason or organization to it.
No.
So it's like put something into place, operationalize some sort of system, even if it's a junk system ultimately. But at least now you have this engine that's running, and now you can add optimization into that engine pretty easily.
Yeah, it's almost a similar thing is like plan before you build, right? Like in project management or something, like that's very similar to it. And also what ends up happening is like many people go into executing without having the plan figured out completely. Like they have some plan, right? So aka you have some standards, but then you start optimizing actually, or aka executing, right? So it's very similar, and it has a similar scent to it of like, if you do that, things are gonna go haywire at the back end. So yeah, okay, great. Let's see what they got for us today.
Epictetus says, "When the standards have been set, things are tested and weighed. And the work of philosophy is just this, to examine and uphold the standards. But the work of a truly good person is in using those standards when they know them."
So yeah, not only making those standards, but then using them as well. Yeah. And standard could also be looked upon as a rule, like my own rules. Let's say, oh, I don't want to be drinking. That's my rule. I don't, or let's say the rule is less rigorous. Like I don't drink on during a week. Let's say somebody has a rule. I don't drink during a week, and so that is that is also a standard that I adhere to, right? But now, many times, everybody does this, right? We set goals or rules, and then we do it for a couple of days, and then we stop. So, well, then that means that it didn't become a standard, or maybe it became a standard, but we're not actually going by that standard. So it's like it's like a nice idea, but without execution. Yeah.
Which I think is why he separates it into
Yeah.
examine them, uphold them, but now also use them and know when to use them. Because that's the other thing is that things are context specific. Every situation is different. There's a lot of nuance in things.
Right. There's no such thing like, oh, rule of thumb. Every time I can apply this thing to that situation. No, all those situations will be a little bit different, but you can have some sort of a standards that you go by in order to kind of guide you into some direction where you want to end up or something, maybe something like that. I don't know. No. Cool. What is this? How is this sitting inside of you?
I'm curious what the standards are. And so I'm sure with Stoicism, there are probably around like the circle of control. What do I control? And then within what do I control, there's the virtues, because I can control myself to be virtuous, or I could control myself to be non-virtuous. And so I imagine that the standards they're talking about is like, how do I uphold the virtues in every situation, given that other people will be the way that they will be, and that the world will be the way that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's kind of fitting to those rules, right? Like, well, how do you do it? Well, you set those rules, and you say, hey, when I feel that I'm getting angry, I will do X, Y, and Z, and I want to catch that. I want that to be my standard. I want that to be my rule that I live by, right? And now that could be a standard. I don't think it's I don't think this is like there are these three standards and just do that. I think it's like that's why I say standards, because each of us have to kind of come up with our own rules based on our beliefs and our philosophies and all of that stuff, whatever makes sense, right? So what if it feels good as well, right? Like there's all
or maybe it's like it's more about like how each person is configured, like
yeah.
So we each need to work on different things. Like we might all be working on becoming more stoic, but the challenges that I have in my journey are going to be different than the challenges that you have. And so we need to have individualized standards for how we're going to deal with those challenges.
Yeah, how we deal with them. Yeah, that's that. Sweet. Ryan time?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Ryan says, we go through our days responding and reacting, but it's rare to really pause and ask, is this thing I'm about to do consistent with what I believe? Or better, is this the kind of thing the person I would like to be should do? The work of living is to set standards and then not compromise them. When you're brushing your teeth, choosing your friends, losing your temper, falling in love, instructing your child, or walking your dog, all of these are opportunities. Not, I want to do good, that's an excuse. But I will do good in this particular instance right now. Set a standard, hold fast to it. That's all there is.
Yeah, that's and it also now that reminds me, based on what Ryan said, like it's essentially like a discipline, right? Like you set those rules and now you adhere to them. So when the opportunity presents itself to do something good or bad, you're no longer asking yourself if you should be doing a good or bad. It's a standard that you say, no, I do good in this situation because I do good in all situations because that's who I want to be and that's my discipline. I want to be doing that, right? Like it's part of that kind of, somehow I see it connected. So kind of cool.
Well, yeah, it has to be discipline, because the reason why you have standards is because if you didn't have them, you wouldn't be doing it that way. You would be doing it some other way.
Right. Probably not the most ideal way, probably. Yeah, that's good. Standards help with the rules, and discipline helps with following those rules, and like it's all like kind of somehow intertwined. Fun. Anything else on your end? Great. All right. Good seeing you all.
Thanks
We'll
for
see you
tuning
next
in.
time.
We'll see you tomorrow.